Welcome to SalesChaosTV. My name is Dan Walshman. I'm co-host of this show, SalesChaosTV. I completely lost my tongue, didn't I? But when I know what I'm doing and I'm not drunk this early in the morning, I'm a writer, I'm a speaker, I'm a strategist, and I run. So, Todd, make me look good.
Yeah, Todd Schnick here, intrepid business strategist, marketing strategist, and also a distance runner consultant.
And you did not trip over your words.
And I'm not drunk this morning.
And despite me being a little bit wacky this morning, we have a very serious topic for you this morning about social media. Social media for CEOs. Now, let me tell you how we do this. If you know the show, we do 8 minutes. We put it on the clock. When we're done talking for 8 minutes, we think the matter's closed. We've solved it. All of life's problems are over, at least for this topic.
Moving on. Yep.
Moving on. That's right. So today we're going to talk about social media for CEOs. This is very important because, it's a topic. If you're a business leader, how do you use social media? It can be scary, right? Especially if you're a publicly traded company and you're already thinking, my whole life is exposed on that quarterly statement. They know how much I'm spending for travel. They know where I'm going, what I'm doing, what my compensation is. Now you want me to expose even more by being on this silly thing you call social media. How do I handle it?
Well, the question is, should a CEO even be on the social web? And if I had $1 for every CEO who told me, well, no, I'm just too busy and this isn't the right thing, my marketing and sales guys ought to handle it. I don't know where you stand there, but I think...
How many dollars did you have? You never finished that.
Well, I'd have a lot of dollars.
You had a lot of dollars. You be a CEO.
Well, see, my question is, all right, what is the goal for the CEO to be on social? All right, so are they trying to maybe get speaking gigs? Are they maybe trying to get a book deal? Well, if that's the case, then yeah, they ought to be in social web. Are they trying to, what if they're just trying to run the company and run it profitably and grow the company and all that? Well, then do you need to be as proactive on? I'm going to say yes. You know why? Because an engaged and cool CEO what a great recruiting tool that is for the company.
Yeah. So huge time out, because I don't like where you're going with this, just to be frank with you. Let me see over. So here's what I'm thinking. So whether you're being on social media or not, I don't think it's a question. I think whether you want to or not, you've got to get your story out. I think you should be. I think if you're a CEO, you should. Now, I don't think you should, put every picture you shoot on Flickr live publicly so everybody can see your personal life. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that there's a story that needs to be told, and if you're not telling that story, somebody else is. That somebody else could be your competitors. That someone else could be industry experts. Someone else could be someone else in your management team who doesn't lead as effectively and as powerfully as you do. So I think CEOs should be on some sort of social media. Here's why. One, it makes you human. There's already this stereotype in leaders that they're better or different. They have different circumstances. They play by different rules than everybody else. And I think being on social media and seeing how human you are allows people to really connect with you in a way that no other tool or no other process can do.
Well, connect with the CEO, sure, but connect with the brand and the business too.
That's the business benefit.
How many businesses exist on the planet, and how many of them do we actually know the name of the CEO? But we know the name of the CEO of Zappos, don't we?
What we do?
Why?
Tony Hsieh.
Because he's active and prevalent out there.
$1 billion company, right?
Right, but he's out there and active. And he's talking to people. And he's communicating with people, and it's really him. A lot of people think that Tom Peters is this old school kind of a guy, but he's very active on Twitter, and he's pushing 70, and he's connecting, and he's putting out. Yeah, you don't have to put pictures of your trip to Disney.
No.
I think you can do that in a certain way, and to create that humanness.
Right. You don't want to be creepy or anything like that.
Well, no, you don't be creepy. But I think it's a great way. Look, you don't have a CEO doesn't necessarily have to Twitter.
No, that's point number 2. So yes, you should be on social media. And number 2 is you don't need to be everywhere. Part of controlling the conversation, right, which is what we talk a lot about, is there's a conversation about you, there's a conversation about your leadership, there's a conversation about the leadership of your business. It's happening. So I would suggest you lead it. That's point number 1. Point number 2 is exactly what you said. You don't need to be on every platform. In fact, there are some that you should not be on probably. Jump into that more. I just cut you off.
Well, no, I think a great example of it really depends on what your skill set is. If you're a charismatic, well-spoken, articulate individual, then maybe you create a YouTube channel where you just put out little bits of thought leadership and some ideas. And hey, look, I achieved a lot to get where I am. I want to help my friends and my network. And here's the things I did to get to where I am today. And so just do it from a service mentality. Maybe you're not photogenic, so maybe you just do a nice little, very executive kind of blog. Mark Cuban. I think is a great guy who does blogs, and he doesn't blog very often. Probably blogs once a month. When he does, the thing gets 1 billion reads. And he's just sharing. Look, he's not talking about anything completely profound and new. He's putting Mark Cuban's spin on it, which people care about. And
he wrote a great series last summer where he talked about his rise to making $1 billion and how people called him lucky. He said, but what you're missing is the fact that here's how I started business when I was nobody and I had no food to eat and I was busting my ass and no one saw that. And so yes, maybe I did get lucky and I'm owning it. I'm the luckiest guy in the world. But here's what I did before that. I made him perfectly human because he is cocky and he's out there. But when you read that article, you're like, oh wow, this dude's been busting his ass for years. Maybe to get lucky with that purchase, but hey, you know what? This guy obviously deserves it.
Yep. The key point, though, Dan, is what you said earlier. It's about extending the story.
It is.
And putting the CEOs, and frankly, I think the whole C-level ought to be active on these tools and wherever makes sense. But getting out there and talking about the brand, how they're living the brand and what they're doing, and because look, another reason I think it's important for executives and CEOs to be on social media. I think it's if the long-term play with the company is to get acquired, then you got to be out there and interacting with that community and getting exposed to people who are in a position to do something like that.
You can't delegate culture. So we talked about the conversation app, we talked about the community, and I'll tell you, third is culture. So you can't delegate culture. It's interesting the number of meetings you go into when you get to this Fortune 100 level where someone goes, we have a director of marketing who handles that. And they're wonderfully talented. So don't get me wrong, they're wonderfully talented. I mean, the resumes are shockingly good, impressive, but that doesn't abdicate your responsibility for creating and leading a culture of intimacy, a culture of leadership, of thought leadership. I mean, you can't expect people to stand up and make a difference when you're not willing to be vulnerable enough to make a difference yourself. Not saying you do something stupid, not saying you put your family in danger because you put personal things up that you should do. What we're saying is that you've got time in the day to do 5-second blurbs, or like you say, take a YouTube video. It's what you think is important. And so if you schedule time in your day to do these things, we're not saying stop what you're doing and being on Twitter all day. We're not saying have TweetDeck open on your monitor so that every time someone tweets about your company, you can jump in there and defend yourself.
Recommend books.
That's right.
I want to know what successful people are doing and how they're learning.
Yeah.
So when a successful CEO says, "Hey, I just finished this great book that taught me X and Y and Z," boy, that means a lot to me.
That's right.
Or referring articles. Yeah. Boy, here's a great article in Fortune you ought to consider reading.
Three reasons. There's a conversation going on. If you're not leading it or a part of it, you're at a complete disadvantage. There's a community you need to be developing relationships with. And third, there's a culture. So the three great reasons, if you haven't thought about it before today, start thinking about it, is making yourself available to capture all three of those. Very important.
Yep. All right, well, that wraps this episode. On behalf of Dan Walshman, I'm Todd Schneck. Treat your customers like human beings, and we'll see you next week on Sales Chaos TV.